So that was from the first one, and you would think that Preston would have gotten his crap together by the third one. But that's not how it worked out, right? So in this one, we find him about a year after, and he's in the South. He's in the home of the blues and the land of hoodoo magic and all that good stuff. And he's gone to the crossroads in Lula, Mississippi to comport with D-Dub and ends up running into Tommy Johnson's ghost, and that kind of reignites everything. And they end up trapped in a juke joint, protected by hoodoo magic. And he's gotten Polly involved, and he's gotten this girl Katie involved, he's gotten a bunch of people involved. And this is just before the proverbial hell breaks loose. Let's see here. All right. What's wrong? I said, twisting my telly's knob all the way down. Katie put her finger to her lips. Polly went over to the window as a blast of trumpets shook the walls. As my ears rang, I thought the short was thunder. People drifted from their tables in the dance floor to the other windows. Somebody pulled the blinds up. Simino left the stage and went over to the front door. He snapped the deadbolt. A woman wailed, pulling at her hair with exaggerated anguish. At once, the people closest to the window scrambled past the bar toward the storeroom and back door. The rest followed without pushing each other, although a table got knocked over, spilling drinks to the floor. Somebody left a purse. A man left a jacket and a pork pie hat. Deliberate horns and a steady bass drum made their way up the road slowly, like a city street sweeper. My mind struggled to find a melody, but the notes weren't coming fast enough. Simino backed over to the bar and plopped himself down on a stool facing the door. Ain't nothing good coming in this second line. I stepped over to the window and pulled the heavy blinds. Outside, a man wearing a top hat and tails and bright white shoes shuffled up the street. He wore white gloves on his hands and carried a miniature wooden casket in the crook of his left arm. A white paint that reflected oddly in the glow of the streetlights covered his face. Draped over his shoulder, he wore a sash embroidered in white flowers and ribbons and gold beads that sparkled like baby stars bunched together in the night sky. For every step forward, he took one to the right and one to the left. He didn't smile or even blink. He led the way with his right elbow cocked high, arrhythmically jerking back and forth, up and down in time with only the every fourth or fifth beat. What is it, Polly asked. Don't know. Hang back to Rachel and Chloe. Katie stood next to me, watching, her hand clasping mine. From out of the darkness, I saw the band, a few loose rows of men in white shirts with black ties and cylindrical black caps with short visors like the marching band wore back in high school. The trees on both sides of the street shook like a storm was blowing in. Simino said, ain't no beans ever burned because nobody stared at him long enough. What's that mean? I said. It means get out of that window, but I couldn't. I wouldn't. The musicians wore sunglasses and white gloves and walked on the same side-to-side shuffle as the parade's grand marshal. They blew so hard I could almost see the notes spilling forth into the night. Rows of brass, trumpets, trombones, and tubas blew young green leaves from their limbs. The falling debris cast curling shadows as they drifted past the orange sodium vapor lights. The drum corps followed on their heels, tapping on a slow rhythm that crawled into my head like a king snake. The windows rattled with each thunderous downbeat. Ice clinked in glasses. The ride cymbal on Simino's kit hissed with the residual energy of the percussion, and the leaves that had fallen to the ground blew ahead of the band on each beat, like a sonic broom pushed them all down the street. A second line had formed behind the musicians. Folks carrying umbrellas decorated with ribbons and flowers and the name of the deceased spelled out in beads and sequins, even though I couldn't read it for the way they were being spun and flipped. The second line consisted of large, dark men in black suits, stoically carrying straw hats balanced on their right hands. Women in red and gold dresses, wearing white gloves, slithered between the men, dancing with their knees high. Some hiked their dresses up to their hips as they bent low and shook their chests. Some wore feathers in their hair. Some had their faces covered with white grease paint. Every 3 or 4 beats, everybody in the group synced up so their elbows caught at precisely the same moment. But after the moment passed, they reverted to chaos. Jamie and Ben stood at the far window with Rachel and Chloe. Katie pulled me away from my vantage to join them. Polly backed over at the bar and waited with Andre and Calvin. A horse-drawn hearse came next. White horses huffed steam into the chilly night. The large black wheels that bore the dark, lacquered carriage wound around slowly. Lilies fell from the top, littering the street with little splashes of white here and there, like a stray blizzard passed through. A large oval window reflected the red and blue neon from Simino's signs. When it passed, I saw the interior had been filled with white lilies. The coach's drivers each wore a black sash with white lettering. On each of the driver's sashes, the name could be read easily, Polly.